everyone. Welcome to the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler and Caroline here with you just like we do every single game day. And like Shroom Sauce on our Twitter account is saying, it ain't game day until the pregame show comes on. So what's up, everyone? Tyler, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. The Oilers are one of the 9 undefeated teams, I believe, still left in the NHL. They're hitting the road for a couple. Plenty to get to, though, but they played 3 really entertaining hockey games, and they've won them all. What more could you ask for?
I know. So let's quickly, before we get into everything tonight with the Yotes, let's recap our game against the Ducks. 6-5. Wasn't pretty, but the boys pulled through. That's what matters at the end of the day is we got the dub. 2 goals from Draisaitl, 2 from Cassian. Crazy. 1 from Connor McDavid and another from Evan Bouchard. McDavid and Draisaitl right now are leading the league with 8 points each. Offensively, we know we're sound.
Yeah.
Defensively, we were talking about Tyson Barrie and a few other missing pieces. What does this team need to do to, from top to bottom, be more consistent and a better-looking team?
Yeah, like the team defense is definitely an issue right now. And again, they're 3-0. And I read Gregor's article up at Oilers Nation. You know, winning ugly is better than losing. But I'll also say that winning in dominant fashion is better than winning ugly. And the offense has been great. Like you said, the power play has been great. I think they've been getting some solid goaltending for the most part as well. But you blew the lead in the third period against Vancouver because you couldn't tighten it up in the final 20. You gave up nearly 50 shots to the Calgary Flames, and then you let the Anaheim Ducks score 5 goals on you. And that's not enough. If you want to be a team that has or is considered one of the few that can go on a deep playoff run in the West, you can't be letting teams like the Anaheim Ducks score 5 on you. And the team defense is an issue. I didn't think Barrie was good. In fact, I thought the only D-man who had a good game against Anaheim was Evan Bouchard, who played incredible and, again, racked up the minutes. But they need to be better. They're giving up too many shots, too many high-danger chances. And with Mike Smith now out of the lineup, you're really going to have to tighten things up with Koskinen between the pipes.
So let's talk about that. Mike Smith out with a lower body injury. We'll talk about what that means for the Oilers a little later on in our show. But let's talk about Mikko Koskinen coming in cold and having a pretty solid performance and what that might do for his confidence and even for us Oilers fans watching our confidence in Mikko, which I'm sure we're all rooting for him.
Yeah, I think it was really important for him, for his psyche to kind of get off to a good start like that, right? Like we know last year wasn't great. I got the numbers here. He had a .317 goals against average and an .899 save percentage. It was a rough year. He talked about the reasons why it was a rough season. You know, he had to play so much early. He fell behind the 8 ball, didn't have much of a training camp. His family wasn't here. And this is a chance for Mikko to get back to normal. And last time there was a normal season, he had a .917 save percentage and a goals against average of .275. This guy, when he's in the right situation, can be a competent 1B goaltender. And now with Smith out, the Oilers are going to need him to do exactly that. For at least a week. I'm expecting him to start both games of this back-to-back. That's a tall order for any goalie, but the fact he got off to a good start against Anaheim, I think is really, really good.
I like this stat from Jim Matheson the other day. Kyler Yamamoto played 2 shifts for a total of 97 seconds in the third period versus the Ducks. Kyler Yamamoto struggling a little on that second line. What do you think that means for him? Is he going to, quote-unquote, get relegated, taken out? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to come a point where Yamamoto's getting healthy scratched here in Edmonton. I don't think they're that deep yet, but they are deep enough to push him down into the bottom 6 if the production doesn't come. And he's running out of chances, and we've kind of been saying that for a while now. That was the big story coming into the regular season, that, you know, Kyler Yamamoto needs to start producing when he's being put in these spots with skilled centermen, and he didn't do that again. He forechecks hard. He creates turnovers. But again, if that's all you're going to do, if you're not going to bring anything in the offensive zone other than skating hard and going into the corners, you're a bottom 6 winger. Pressure's on Yamo. He's got to start scoring.
Okay, so obviously I know the Oilers' star players, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Jesse Puljujarvi now making a name for himself once again. My favorite Oiler to watch as a new Oilers fan is Zack Cassian, because this guy makes the game of hockey super exciting to watch, especially from someone who is now religiously watching the Oilers. What I've heard from him in the past is maybe he might struggle a little with consistency. Yep. So what does Zack Cassian need to do to ensure that consistency, to ensure this momentum that he's had in the first few games with the Oilers here, going in through the rest of the season, especially here tonight against the Yotes?
Similar to Yamamoto, he's a guy who is facing some pressure heading into this season. You know, if things didn't go well this year, it's probably his last year as an Oiler. It might be even if things do go well, but it's great to see Cassian back to that, it's become a bit of a cliche at this point, but that 2017 form that we saw him in during that playoff series against the Sharks, if he's physical, he's engaged. And I think we saw that. He lays a couple of big hits, even against Calgary. He's being a bit of a pest. And I think that just allows his offensive game to roll as well. He gets that confidence. And even if he's not scoring, if he's hitting hard and he's a pest in the bottom six, he brings value for the Oilers. It might not be $3.25 million worth of value, but it's something at least. It's better than what we saw from him last year. 2 goals, you're not getting that every night. But if you can get that every once in a while, man, this third line, maybe it can be a real area of strength for the Oilers. And we haven't said that since 2017.
And Tyler, guess what?
What?
Mikko Koskinen. Zach Cassian is, in fact, an Aquarius. Which means he's an air sign, which means he's very smart, which is why he can score goals, as well as hot-tempered, which is why he's not afraid to, get those big hits and drop the mitts. Okay, let's move on to the opposition report before Tyler fires me as his co-host on this giant pregame show. We all know the Oilers are on the road for the first time this season. They have won their first 3 games of the season. They're taking on an Arizona Coyotes team that is winless in their first 3 games. What do the Oilers need to do here tonight while on the road to get the W, as well as contain guys like Clayton Keller, who plays for the Yotes, who has 2 goals and assists in the season so far because, he's a threat offensively for the Arizona Coyotes?
Yeah, I mean, Clayton Keller is kind of the one name up front that you really need to watch. As I kind of go through their lineup, it's a bunch of who are they and has-beens, really. Like, Andrew Ladd is on their second line. Andrew Ladd's not a second-line player in the NHL. Phil Kessel off to a good start. He's not the Phil Kessel we know and love. Louis Eriksson was a cap dump from Vancouver. Antoine Roussel kind of in the same boat. Shane Gostisbehere is their leading scorer on the blue line. There's a reason why this team has lost 3 games by a combined 10 goals. They're not that good. So kind of similar to Anaheim, don't give them hope. That was the kind of mistake the Oilers made against the Ducks, was they just let Anaheim linger, stay in that game. They made a couple of big mistakes, and the Ducks capitalized. Credit to them. Tonight, play mistake-free hockey, and you're going to win this game pretty easily, I think. The Yotes have a really bad penalty kill as well, so if you're forcing the game on them a little bit, playing in the offensive zone a lot, they're going to take penalties, and when they do, let your power play win you a hockey game again. So again, not much of a threat here. The Oilers control their own fate in this hockey game.
Okay, let's go right into our lineups for the Arizona Coyotes, presented by Deuce Vodka.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit there. Like, you can see the depth isn't really there on this team. I don't mind their first line. Clayton Keller's legit. Lawson Krause is off to a really good start this year. He's a big physical winger. Nick Schmaltz, good enough, I suppose. The rest of that team, I mean, just look at their center depth. We'll get to the Oilers lineup in a second, but Johan Larsson, Travis Boyd, Jay Beagle. Which one of those guys do they think is going to be capable of shutting down one of the Oilers' big lines tonight? I'm not seeing it there. With their blue line, they're likely going to try get Chychrun and Strawman out against the Oilers' big guns. But that's going to be tougher to do tonight as we get to the Oilers' lines.
Okay, Oilers lines right now presented by Deuce Vodka. We know that Mike Smith is out. Mikko Koskinen, you said, Tyler, you project him to play back-to-back games tonight and tomorrow night. This also means Stuart Skinner is called up. Talk to me about everything you see happening with the Oilers starting with tonight.
Yeah, bit of pressure on Mikko Koskinen. He's going to have to play good tonight, and fully expecting him to get the start tomorrow against Vegas. If the Oilers were going to play Stuart Skinner for a game, it in all likelihood would have been tonight against a bad Coyotes team, not tomorrow against a pretty good Vegas team who is a little banged up. But the big change, you're seeing it right there with the forward group. Zach Hyman's getting moved up onto the top line.
Woo, woo!
With Connor McDavid and Jesse Puljujarvi. And I wish I had the name, but I remember someone suggested this in our Facebook chat on one of the streams earlier this year. They said, hey, when you're on home ice and you have last change, keep McDavid and Draisaitl together. When you're on the road, split them up, make life difficult on the opposition, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mentioned there's not a lot of depth in Arizona. They have one good D pairing and one good forward line. So put McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines and force the Coyotes to choose. Which duo do you want to send out your top line against? Either McDavid or Draisaitl, one of the two is getting an absolute gravy matchup in this hockey game. The third line stays the same. Good to see. Fourth line going to stay the same. Top 6 different, though, and I love the decision from Tippett.
Can you tell everyone your joke this morning? I said to Tyler, I'm really excited to see how Hyman and Connor look together.
And I said they'll look the same, but I'm excited to see how they'll play.
You guys see what I have to put up with off camera? You guys see this? I'm kidding. That was funny. It's true. Tyler's right. All right, bet of the game presented by PointsBet. Go ahead. What are you calling tonight?
Yeah, let's take a look at how things are lining up. Oilers, obviously, big-time favorites on the money line at minus 200. If you want them on the puck line to win by a goal and a half, it is plus 120. I do not mind that at all. I also don't mind the over in this game. It's set at 6. Again, the goaltending matchup, it's Mikko Koskinen going up against Karl Vejmelka. This guy's played 2 NHL games, and they've been good, granted. They've been good, but he hasn't had to go up against the Edmonton Oilers yet. So considering the goaltending matchup, considering how shaky the Oilers have been in their own end and how good they've looked in the offensive zone, I like the over here, but my bet of the game is another shot prop, and it's Jesse Puljujärvi over 2.5 shots, paying out even money, and I'm just looking at this. Draisaitl's off the top line. Someone's going to be the beneficiary of these great Connor McDavid passes. I like Puljujärvi to get over 2.5 shots as your bet of the game.
Okay, love it. Right now, there's a bunch of comments here on our Twitter feed. Tyler, I don't know what Facebook looks like, but right now, Shroom Sauce says he's holding his crystals. Shroom Sauce, I feel you, and I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I didn't hold my crystals last game, and I think that's why it was a little shaky. So tonight, you guys have my word. I'm holding my crystals. I got my sage, and the Oilers will be just fine. Also, from Zarli Zapaleski.
Zarli Salapski.
Sorry. Do you know him?
Former NHLer. Name of a former NHLer, I should say.
It's very, very difficult for an emotional, physical player to bring it for an 82 regular season game.
Yeah, and I think that's probably in regards to Cassian, and I get it. He's not going to be laying big hits and being a pest every night, but the Oilers need it more often than not. And I'd say, it's a tough thing to bring that energy for all 82 games. But for Zach Cassian, you're making, again, almost $3.5 million. You should be motivated for every game. Over on the Facebook side of things, Alex Wolf said he'd put Yamamoto down to the 4th line and put Perlini up to the 2nd line. This really does, they're reuniting the Dry, Ryan, Kai line with Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto. This might be Yamamoto's sort of last chance to really get going. That was the trio he was a part of when he first came up, 27 points in 29 games, and that crazy productive stretch in couple of years ago now before the pandemic. This might be his last chance to find the back of the net and get going offensively here.
I'm going to throw out producer Liam's thought this morning when he said maybe Kyler Yamamoto should get a shot on the top line because he's played well before with Draisaitl and McDavid, and kind of for Dave Tippett to be like, this is your last chance. Here are the 2 best players in the league. Let's see if we can do something for you. What do you think about that? / anyone listening, weigh in, please.
I don't know if I love the idea of just taking a player who's struggling and saying, hey, we're throwing you up on the top line. I think that I'm not sure about the message that sends. I understand why you might do it to kickstart Yamamoto, but I also think the decision Tippett made here, again, split up McDavid and Draisaitl, match up hell for the other team, and Yamo gets to go back with Draisaitl, which like Liam did say off camera, he's comfortable in that spot. So I think this is a good look for the Oilers. I'm excited to see how this forward group plays out.
All right, everyone, that is our pregame show, our giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be back here tomorrow because we have another game tomorrow. So we'll be recapping. We'll be previewing. Tyler will be making fun of me some more. No problem. We'll be here. We hope to see you guys and enjoy the game.